The ongoing protests in Iran, now entering their 9th day, represent a significant challenge to the Islamic Republic and a continuation of simmering discontent fueled by economic hardship and political restrictions. The renewed intervention threat from former U.S. President Trump adds another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. This analysis will delve into the root causes of the protests, examine the historical context of similar events in Iran, assess the current state of affairs, and explore the potential implications for the country and the wider region. The primary catalyst for the protests is undoubtedly Iran's struggling economy. Years of sanctions, coupled with internal mismanagement and corruption, have led to high inflation, unemployment, and a decline in living standards for many Iranians. The initial spark was likely a specific incident or policy change, but the underlying frustration has been building for some time, providing fertile ground for widespread demonstrations. Specific policy examples likely include subsidy cuts or price increases on essential goods, actions often implemented in the name of economic reform but disproportionately affecting the poor and working class. The perception of government corruption and enrichment of the elite exacerbates this economic pain, fueling resentment and distrust. The current protests are not occurring in a vacuum. Iran has a history of popular uprisings and demonstrations against the government. The 2009 Green Movement, sparked by disputed presidential election results, saw massive protests across the country. Similarly, protests erupted in 2017 and 2019, driven by economic grievances and demands for political reform. These past events provide valuable context for understanding the current situation. They demonstrate a persistent undercurrent of dissatisfaction within Iranian society and the willingness of ordinary citizens to take to the streets to express their discontent. Furthermore, the government's response to these past protests, often involving repression and violence, has likely contributed to the hardening of attitudes and a growing sense of desperation among some segments of the population. Beyond the economic factors, the protests also reflect a deep-seated desire for greater political and social freedoms. The Islamic Republic is characterized by significant restrictions on freedom of expression, assembly, and the press. Dissidents are often arrested and imprisoned, and social norms are strictly enforced. Many Iranians, particularly younger generations, yearn for a more open and liberal society, one where they can express themselves freely and have greater control over their lives. The desire for political change is intertwined with the economic grievances, as many believe that the current political system is incapable of addressing the country's economic problems. Trump's renewed intervention threat adds a significant dimension to the crisis. While the details of this threat are unclear, any direct intervention by the United States would likely be counterproductive. It could provide the Iranian government with a pretext to crack down even harder on protesters, portraying them as agents of foreign interference. Furthermore, it could unite some segments of the Iranian population against the perceived external threat, undermining the protest movement. Trump's previous actions, such as withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal and imposing crippling sanctions, have already contributed to the country's economic woes and arguably fueled the current unrest. His continued rhetoric is likely to further inflame tensions and complicate the situation. The context within the wider region is also crucial. Iran is engaged in a complex geopolitical struggle with several regional rivals, including Saudi Arabia and Israel. These rivalries are often played out through proxy conflicts in countries like Syria and Yemen. The internal unrest in Iran could weaken the country's regional position and embolden its adversaries. Conversely, a successful suppression of the protests could reinforce the government's authority and allow it to continue its regional activities. The situation also has implications for the ongoing negotiations over Iran's nuclear program. A weakened Iranian government might be more willing to make concessions in order to secure sanctions relief, but it could also become more intransigent if it feels its survival is at stake. In conclusion, the protests in Iran are a complex phenomenon driven by a combination of economic hardship, political repression, and social discontent. The historical context of past protests, the current regional rivalries, and the potential for external intervention all contribute to the volatile nature of the situation. While it is impossible to predict the outcome with certainty, the protests represent a significant challenge to the Islamic Republic and have the potential to reshape the political landscape of Iran and the wider region. The government's response to the protests will be crucial, as will the actions of external actors such as the United States. A peaceful resolution that addresses the underlying grievances of the Iranian people is essential for ensuring long-term stability and prosperity.